in my opinion, the military is at the worst state possible for a country's military, but our resistance force can do better.
Hello and welcome to What's Happening in Myanmar, a weekly show from the Frontier Myanmar podcast family. I'm your host, Luke Corbin. This is episode 37, and today, on Thursday, July 24, we have a special discussion with a former Myanmar military soldier who's now helping head up a research organisation offering strategic analysis on the Myanmar military's organisation, tactics and vulnerabilities. But before introducing him, I'll quickly cover how things are going in northern Shan State and Nawnghkio, the town that the military took back from the Ta'ang National Liberation Army, TNLA, just last week. This Monday, the State Administration Council's Vice Senior General, So Win, visited Nawnghkio. There, he promoted dozens of soldiers involved in the town's recapture. Now, these occupying soldiers have been alternately handing out to residents of Nawnghkio boxes of danbal, so rice cooked with meat and spices, biryani, while also detaining anyone they suspect of having worked with the TNLA when they were in control. Soldiers are also reopening public services in the town like schools and banks, and regime public servants are returning. Meanwhile, rumours are swirling once more that the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, the MDSI, will return Seni Town to the military. And thousands of residents of TNLA-controlled Sipor and Jalpmir have been fleeing to areas under control of the MDSI in expectation of the military attacking Sipor and Jalpmir next. And in breaking news, the Myanmar military appears to have retaken Thabeikkyin. That's a strategic gold mining town in Mandalay region. Resistance forces had captured it last August. Now, fighting is continuing near the town, but the military's hold of the main gold mining and commercial areas seems secure. So, losing Nawnghkio and now Thabeikkyin this week, in a context of continued ongoing infighting between resistance forces in Chin State and in the Yor region, and then the seemingly endless siege in Bamo and the Myanmar military advances into Pakant, it all adds up to what has been a bit of a bad couple of weeks for those resisting military rule in Myanmar. Now, just quickly, thank you so much to all of you listening who are Frontier Myanmar members. You're the reason why we can support our journalists and produce the important journalism that we do. If you're not a member, well, that's okay. You can still read our work on the Frontier Myanmar website, but consider joining. Go to frontiermyanmar.net/membership. Now, we have two great new pieces up this week, two feature stories on the Frontier website. The first, True Believers, the Myanmar-Americans who stand with US President Donald Trump. That's right, support for the president appears to be holding steady among the Myanmar-Americans who voted for him in 2024, despite Trump's gutting of aid and travel bans on Myanmar. And then just published yesterday, feature story about residents of Monywa, close to the epicenter of the Sagaing earthquake, who claim they are living in fear of kidnappings from both pro-military and pro-democracy militias. Perpetrators of these kidnappings are increasingly targeting children to force families to pay expensive ransoms. Two really important feature stories and couldn't have been done without you Frontier members. So thank you, and make sure to have a read online. With all that done, let me now introduce our guest, who we will be calling Dr. Kid for this episode. But he's a former Myanmar military doctor who's currently acting as communications officer and other roles for the new Myanmar Defence and Security Institute, MDSI. That organisation's tagline is military expertise for democratic reform, and it's committed to advancing, I quote, security sector reform in a future democratic Myanmar. Now, since the MDSI was founded earlier this year, it's released several publications in both English and Burmese. This has included reports on conscription, on the military command structure, the Defence Services Academy, and much more. Now, Dr. Kidd is here to talk about the MDSI and about how soldiers in the civil disobedience movement, CDM, are working with the revolution to expose the military's corruption and its weaknesses. So without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Kidd, a former military doctor and now the communications officer for the MDSI. Hello, Dr. Kidd.
Hello.
So the MDSI is a new organisation. Many listeners may have never heard of it, but it's already getting momentum, putting out really important reports. So congratulations. But let me ask, in your own words, how would you introduce the MDSI and its goals?
Yes, we founded the institute like 4 months ago, but the other members were having in the revolution for like almost 3 or 4 years since the start of the coup. So the thing is that like we used to talk about a lot about the inside of the military, like their doctrine and their operating and procedures, but like our de facto, our CDMers, they are like talking to the community that only that they can reach around them. So yeah, it's kind of like the facts and the data were really scattered and not widely reached. We feel like that. So finally we decided to teams up and like for an organization that was really collect and organize all the data that we can get from the former military pupils and CDMers and also from the watermelons, the guys who are inside the military, like feeding us the information, those kind of things. And our like ultimate goal is like we kind of want to put up like a small Wikipedia for the military. We were not like intended it for any other particular organization, but all the organization can like take whatever they need from our website and data. Like that's kind of the main goal. We're hoping that it will really like help in fill in the gaps in each sector, like human rights, about the sanction and also about the like tactic for the resistance fighters and everything. Like as far as I know, like almost all the organizations have a little bit of like more or less gap in the inside knowledge about the military, because none of the military personnel were like deeply involved with the organization before. So that is the first thing. And then another thing is that like we want to like teach about how like federalism works and about the SSR and DDR, like that kind of security sector reform to our like CDMers and to any kind of fighters, any kind of civilian who might be interested in about the perspective of the ex-military personnel, because we think we might have a little bit of like different or unique perspective, like looking at the revolution, like with comparing to the civilians like we used to live and work in the military at least like 10 years, and some guys are working in the military for the 20 years, so they might have perspective. And we have already like thousands of de facto and sometimes prisoner of wars and everything, so they might also have insights and opinions. So we want it to collect and produce data and research and everything, and we want to fill the gap in the fight for democracies.
And of course, you were founded entirely by CDM soldiers, which is quite different.
Yes, this is correct. Yeah, we got like all the members are the former soldiers, like CDM members. We got some experts from the Air Force, and some from the engineering, some from the different industry, and some from the infantry and things like that. So we trying to collect the most resourceful CDM. Then we trying to connect a big network to the or to all the other de facto who is like living in the whole country and in the in different countries. So yeah, that kind of thing.
And I guess it goes a little bit without saying, but it strikes me this is really quite dangerous work that you're doing, because the military, of course, it routinely detains and kills defectors. But it's one thing to escape from the military and then keep your head down, work a job in Thailand or hide at your family farm. But it's something quite different to then join the revolution, to publish military secrets, put information about the military and its weaknesses online in the public domain.
The thing is that, in our opinion, it might not make any difference. Like, I mean, like they cannot punish wars than the previous charges, because just for leaving the military could like put it in the prison for at least 7 to 10 years, and then we join the resistance forces and pro-democratic forces, like that has already like set us for like life imprisonment or death sentence already. So it is without even doing those kind of things. So I don't think they can make it worse. What can they do? Like they cannot get us twice, even without MDSI, like the former activities are enough for them to care us if they got X. So yeah, I don't think we have like more extra concern. Like this is the goal. Like we want to press very hard, very hard to the military. So we don't have any extra concern, but we always have to be like take care of our security since we left the military. So yeah.
Okay, you mentioned providing data and information to other revolutionary stakeholders and organizations and things. But are you also thinking about MDSI as part of like the wider defection strategy of the revolution, working with other defection organizations to reach out to currently serving soldiers and, explain the facts about the military system, try and break through the brainwashing or give people confidence to leave? Is that part of what you do?
Yes, yeah, that's kind of we have been doing in the last few years. Like we trying to like break through their propaganda, and we try to send information inside the military, like so that some people might have a little bit relief from the brainwash and those kind of things. And then like we also have concern about if we put up those kind of sensitive information like publicly, the military might I don't know, trying to change it or sometimes use it for their own goods. But so we have to like compromise. Like sometimes we have like close group that are like closely working with different kind of like international organization, and then also like different kind of resistance forces. And sometimes we have to like send the sensitive information for their eyes only and those kind of things like that. So we are very careful about what we put on the website. If we decided to put those things on the website, that means they can be used, and they can also be seen by the military, and they cannot do anything about it. Yeah, so that's kind of thing we are hoping. And when you talk about the military having like brainwash people and the people that know, but in our perspective, like an insider, like in the military there might be like 4 groups of people. Like the first group might be like knowing what the military is doing is wrong and they have courage to leave like us. And then there might be another group, like they are in the wrong place, but they don't have the courage to leave. Like they will lose a lot. So we kind of call them like cowards group or things like that. And then there are another group. Also, they know what they're doing is wrong, but there are a lot of incentive, like they will get promotion, they will get houses and monies and things like that. So they are staying in the military for their own good, even though they know they were wrong. So the fourth group would be the frankly stupid group. Like they really buying the propaganda and like I don't know, false information put out by the military, and they really believe that they are like protecting the countries and everything. So like we can look at the military like that kind of categories.
Okay, and let's chat now about a couple of your reports, explicitly. So one you released in May this year. It was called Changes and Adaptations in Command, Control and Strategic Aerial Operations of the Junta's Air Force. It's a bit of a mouthful. It sounds quite technical, but also an important topic because as we know, the Air Force is crucial to the military's grip on power.
Yes, but you must have seen like after 1027, like the resistance forces are really putting in a lot of offense and getting a lot of CDs, like more than 90 CDs were in our forces controlled. But you might have noticed that in the last year, like the offenses advances have become a little bit slower, and we got a little bit more causality, and we got more time, like sometimes 4 months to 6 months to 6 a CD or a base. Yeah, you might have noticed that in the 2024. Yeah,
Bamor is still.
Yes, yeah, that's the very obvious example, the Bamor. And because in the past, in the 2022 or 23, yes, the military used to be very old school about how they like corrupt the airstrikes and air supports. Yeah. So if a base is surrounded by the resistance forces, they have to report to the regional commander, but the regional commander can just send them planes over there. So he has to report directly of the military Air Force on the Naypyidaw, so that only after the Naypyidaw headquarters approved the airstrike, so the jet fighters or air supports can come to the completed area. So that took a lot of bureaucracy and red tape, and took a lot longer. Sometimes even the base already have fallen into the our forces, and then even that plane cannot came up to the necessary places. But last year they have totally changed that kind of chain of command. So now the regional operation commander, any regional operation commander, can call up an airstrike directly, and then they can report to the headquarters later. That's basically the whole the whole things about the report. It might be a little bit complicated about the chain of commands and reporting system, but the thing is that they make the air support and airstrike more efficient and like to come up more quickly. So it would really hurt our advancing forces. So that's why we are now facing a little bit of challenge for the resistance fighter, like to set up a base or to seize a city or things like that. Basically it's robust about that.
So it's about delegating more authority and autonomy to the regional commanders.
Yeah, so they figure out their weakness and like it hurts us.
And the military has really diversified the ways that it can hurt the resistance from the skies. Now it's got drones, paramotors, gyrocopters, drones that can be launched from any base. They don't need to be sent up from airports.
If they were really a standard army or effective army, they might have using the drones like since many years ago, but they have a lot of red tape and they have a lot of lines in the report, because all the commenters were very afraid to report the real situation and real how many soldiers die on the battlefield, things like that. So they lie about like drones are not effective and drones are not hurting that and things like that. So we have been like getting upper hands with the drones and everything. But in the next year, they finally figure out like they were really hurt by drones, and the soldiers on the front lines are really afraid of drones and things like that. So they started like forming the drone forces. They started buying a lot of very like advanced drones machines from the other country, and now they started training their forces. So near the end of the 2024 or 25, those kind of like forces in training were already active, and then like so they have a lot of drone powers since they have a lot of limited kind of resource in fundings and international organizations. So now they got some kind of better drones and like more drones and forces, and then they have like better jammers and things like that. So we kind of getting hacks from that kind of thing. So we are like we want to advocate that this kind of like military like changing and like making their forces more stronger. We cannot stop only by the resistance fighters. Like they can only fight for so much. So it has to be joint effort from the international organization. So we are trying to figure out which country are helping them. Like I know they can get a lot of device from the Belarus and Russia or China, but the thing is that they are still able to use the things from the French and sometimes Western made aircrafts and sometimes those spare packs and these kind of things keep coming like from the share companies and intermediary everything. So if we want to stop the genders like killing people and like now taking back their cities, and we need a joint force, international force about the sanctions and all the other things. So we are trying to fill in the gap about those kind of things. The military is trying to improve themselves. We are trying to prove that, and we are trying to provide the details or how they are improving themselves.
Yeah, research into the Air Force is so important. Just in the last year, 6 months, there's been quite a few high-profile incidents of jets crashing and helicopters being blown up and stuff. But it can be hard to sort of know how significant those events are militarily. Can you get access to any of that?
Yes, I kind of want to say that if some of the plane they are supposed to be retired from the military era of since years ago, and they now for the lack of manpower and now they need a lot of ammunition and aircraft, so they are using the unsafe plane, very old and antique planes. So they might have facing a lot of technical issue, and sometimes those kind of technical issue and inefficiency can lead to the shutdown of the planes and destroying things like that.
Yeah, it's a complicated picture, a real mixed bag. These new drones and innovation, but also these ancient old jets. And then the Air Force is notoriously corrupt. It's got basically rackets going on, gangs of staff that steal jet fuel and divvy it out amongst each other. But the Air Force still plays such an important role in the military clinging to power.
I mean, now they just get their momentum back, but it could be like temporary if we keep disrupting it like from the inside and outside organization. So so there will be like shortage in the fuel. Like even if we look at the bombs, like maybe there were some an exploded bomb in the area, and when we look at the serial number, we can figure out that it's like produced by the defense industry recently. Usually that the army used to use the ammunition like produced from the industry for 2 or 3 years ago, like in the past. Now they are using the thing that were only like came out of the factory last month or things like that now. So we can figure out that like they have been like having challenges in the in the mass production or the ammunitions and things like that. So we have to also put pressure on where it has like attacking the different industry, like trying to get more sanction and trying to figure out their black market rules from the international markets and things like that.
Yeah, as you say, related to this is where the planes and drones actually get their, bombs from and things, the manufacturing base of the military. There's been an increasing interest in the defence industry's factories where the military manufactures its small arms and bombs, really since the coup. People often refer to them as the Kapasa. That's a Burmese acronym. It means Gakwiyi Pitsi Seyon. Now, these factories, they're dotted around the dry zone. Most of them are in Bago and Magwe regions. But while everyone says they're important, resistance groups say they're targeting them, analysts say that they're crucial, there are yet to really be any consequential direct attacks on them. So how do you see the situation with these factories at the moment, middle of 2025?
Yes, that is one of our most important reports that is coming out at the end of this month. Like we have been like collecting the data for almost 3 months about the different industry, because we have over like 25 different industry in the military, and every industry has like interconnected with each other while like production the supply, because some factory might only produce like assault rifles and some other factory produce area bombs or some direct gas, and then again they also need raw materials and gunpowders and explosive from other specific kind of different industry, like they are chain or connection. So if we can in the future, if we can figure out which different industry to hit first or which different industry that we can like disrupt, so that the whole chain would be affected, and we don't have to hit all the 25 factory. Maybe we need to hit the key like 2 or 3 factories. So they are also like storage depots and things like the transportation roads and everything. So if we can figure out, so that the resistance forces mainly, they will have to figure out those kind of things, and we want to fill in the gap in that kind of situation, and also we want to fill in the gap for the international organization to put sanctions and things like that. So now we are like trying to organize all the data of the different industry, like which industry located where and what kind of things they are specifically producing at each different industry. Like a report will be coming up in the end of this month, I guess. Yeah, and then there will be a lot of reports coming out like about the individual factory. Like after we put a report about all the factory, then we were focused on the very important factory, and like they are willow operating, they are like their formation, and they are like kind of location and like strategy and things like that. Yeah, some of them will be put on the website, and some of them will be like fit to the necessary forces organization. Yeah,
I'm sure that's going to be really interesting reading. I want to also ask you about another report, one that you wrote on the conscription law, came out last month on June 10.
Yeah, about the people military service. Yeah, when the conscription law begins, like some of our people from our side like tends to think it is just a minor issue. People are not willing to fight for them, and like people will shoot them back, or other people will run away or things like that. But in reality, like it doesn't happen like easily like this. They have already conscripted like 5,000 people a month. So this is for one batch, and now they have already reached to like 58 batch. So when we issue the report, they have already been like 48 batch. So we can count like it was around like 70,000 people that they conscripted, like more or less, and then like they always trying to get their quota full in each batch. So even if they don't get the 5,000 people a batch, at least they got more than 4,000 people a batch. There were a lot of underage people and sometimes like mentally challenged people and everything. But the thing is that like in the last 3 years, we have been fighting there, like people are leaving the military, all the other things. Like even if we combine all the numbers that we like that we kill or that we capture or like maybe defected to us, it could be like around like 40,000 or 50,000 at most. And now that they got the number back in 1 year, so that is really concerning. And then we have like, we really have a lot of defector from the new recruits, and people is like fall in the battlefield and things like that. But usually, a standard soldier have to be learn about the basic military training for only 3 to 6 months. Now they are like putting the young people only with the 2 months of training and to the front line. And according to our information, like in the last 3 months ago, even the guys from the batch 10 has already deployed in the front lines. Sometimes they just put a lot of number, like 1,000 people to the conflicted battalion, or for example to the Pamo or to the other like front lines. Like 1,000 people is a lot, even if they are not inexperienced or like willing to fight. But when their life were threatened and when the guns are put in their hand, they will shoot at least. So if even they are like in affected groups, like, but if they send 1,000 soldiers to the battalion, at least 500 of them will be used from the military in many things, like carrying things like porters and sometimes crossing the minefield, human shields and everything. So that kind of conscription is really concerning, and also we are also hoping to put pressure on that kind of thing, and we also want our like government body stakeholder to like figure out a strategy to to get more defectors and to maybe to educate the young people like how to stay away from the military, like how to run away from the military and things like that. But as far as we know now, they have more than 60,000 people recruited and they are using that effectively. That's basically about our report, but the report has more like broader opinion. We put about like the training the post where they are being trained in the whole country, and then which batch and where are they like being deployed, and there were also numbers like to the division that the new recruits were deployed. So the report would be like more effective for the people who are really trying to figure out how to attack the battalions, like how to cast the rough manpowers, and also will be effective for the human rights watch and things like that, because there were a lot of the Chinese soldiers and like they are like kind of kidnapped or abducted sometimes. So yeah.
All right. Now, I want to ask you, you're a CDM soldier, okay? So you have long experience working within the military institution, and you've done all this research and all this thinking since the coup. I want to ask you what you see as the Achilles heel of the military, like, or what is the military's greatest weakness? How can people who oppose military rule, exploit that weakness?
The most obvious weakness of the military would be the corruption. Like it's been going on for more than a few decades. They have in several decades that they have a corruption. So when the military announced their manpower like 500,000 people before the coup, like that is totally aligned. In the battalion in the rear ground, like the number of people on the paper would be like less, like more, like it would be half. The real number is like half of the number on the paper. So we were guessing that even before the coup and even before other people like being killed in the actions and things like that, we only figure out like about 250,000 people at most. But not all the soldiers are usable on the battlefield. So yeah, we are like guessing about fighting force will be like not more than around 150K. But the war is like so difficult to deplete that kind of number. We've been trying for 3 years and we can only get maybe like 40 or 50K at most. So yeah, that kind of thing, that this is the main weakness. Like they are being aligned to each other from the bottom to from the top and things like that. And there are also a lot of corruption and there are a lot of decreased moral in the soldier, especially when the coup happened, that there are like defectors like us, like we keep telling them that this is wrong and like you shouldn't be working for that and things like that. And then now when the resistance forces are getting stronger, like they are more get a lot of down a lot, so that sometimes we didn't even have to fight to the bases, like they just simply surrender. Sometimes even if the news write about like they fight for 3 days or a week, sometimes it doesn't really need to be that way. They have already agreed to surrender. They just kind of want to reduce their punishment, so they just shoot on the sky or something like that, and then they just simply surrender. In some cases, like there are like a few cases in the military that they shoot their commander. They shoot their commander and the whole battalion surrender. That kind of thing happens. And then there's another things like working with the defector, because sometimes the battalion leaders might be a friend with our defector officer or things like that. Sometimes we got in contact with them, and sometimes we try to negotiate with that leader to surrender, and we can guarantee their safety and things like that. So that kind of thing, the defector and CDM are hiding the military, like that kind of their weakness too. Yeah. And then there will be another things about the efficiency. If we look at the Air Force, like they are very, I don't know, hilarious sometimes. Even in the like cool and camp training, like they always like miss the targets, and they cannot figure out like where to attack or things like that. They were always like scolded and shouted by their leaders, how they drive the airplane inefficiently and things like that. So that's kind of thing happen when the real battle began, like they put supply on the wrong places. Sometimes they bomb their own bases and things like that. It's about the efficiency, or also about the infantry soldier, like they used to like sleep a lot on the class about the tactic and trainings, and like they used to always like most of them are like really educated and and really efficient in about the military and tactics and things like that. So every time we attack them, we face a lot easier, relatively, depending on their human, I don't know, manpower. Although they have manpower, they don't have moral, they don't have the real knowledge and technique, and how to find out battles and things like that. So we got like a moral issue, moral issue, and then there is also like technological and efficiency issue. So that would be the weakness, and then the corruption also push up, that lead to like falling off the cities and bases and things like that. So yeah, in our opinion, and the military already has a lot of weakness. What we need is we need to reduce our weakness, that we have to like improve our forces, like that kind of chain of command, being more cooperated each other. I think the military is already on the verge to losing, but to put an end to an organization that has been rooting in the country and using all the resources of the country, we need like better coordination, like better unity, and that kind of thing. So in my opinion, the military is at the worst state possible for a country's military, but our resistance force can do better. I think that could be the issue to prolong the situation. But also the problem is like most of our resistance forces are being pressured by the Chinas and things like that. Those kind of foreign interference, and like supporting the regime could also headaches there. That is kind of our weakness, and they already have a lot of weakness, but then we have ours too. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are obviously, the Air Force itself is obviously not a weakness, but there are weaknesses around it. Like we said earlier, it's really necessary for the military. I mean, if the Air Force is compromised, the military will have to negotiate with its opponents. But the Air Force is kept propped up by cooperation by these regional powers, as you've mentioned.
Yeah, that is definitely the top priority, like to eliminate the Air Force. And that is why we need also multidisciplinary and multi-organizational approach. We cannot just end the Army Air Force by just a brute force. Yeah, we cannot just simply attack their bases or things like that. So we need a lot of like international pressure and organizational pressure, and also a lot of collaborating with our resistance forces and things like that. Yeah, that would be the top priority, the Air Force. And then again, the Air Force, although they have planes, they need like bombs, and they need have ammunition. So the defense industry should be put to prioritize to like stop or destroy. And also they are also buying like fuels and ammunition from the foreign country. Like we also have to like trying to stop those kind of things. I think it would be like multi-way approach, like needing at the same time. Yeah.
Well, on that note of cooperation, and trust and things, a bit of maybe the most personal question of the interview now. I want to ask you, how is it being a CDM soldier now in 2025? In the past, like revolutionaries, they were kind of skeptical of CDM soldiers, distrustful. Even people who escaped the military but didn't choose to join the revolution had quite a difficult life, being trapped between a bit of a rock and a hard place. Yeah, so that's the question. How is it being a CDM soldier now?
Yeah, so there were like different kind of soldiers, like depending on their like each situation. Some of them are in the ethnic control area or resistance for control area. Like they might be working with the forces and they might be like advising or sometimes fighting alongside with them. And some of the soldiers might be on the other places like Thailand or India or any other country. Like they will be like trying to work online, like maybe like with us as a group and things like that. So I think it's been like 3 or 4 years that some of the defectors have left the military. So like I think those kind of people have already found a way to to sustain or to survive. Like as far as I know, like some people are really like doing the hard work, like basically was sometimes farming and sometimes being waiter in the restaurants and things like that in the abroad, and then inside the Myanmar and our like people control region, like they might be like working with the locals, and then sometimes if they are the military Dao engineer, like they might be working for the factory and sometimes working in the hospital to help the injured people. So that kind of thing. So everyone has to find their own way to survive and sustain and like keep participating in the revolution. And honestly, some of the defectors might stop to participating in the revolution. Like they have to survive, find their own, like they cannot even do things like that anymore. So there might be some people, but we still have to thank them because they left the military. So we got one less person to attack. So we waking everyone, like whether they are not helping in the revolution or not. Yeah, that's kind of thing. But the thing about the suspicion among the forces, like I think it is also a bad thing, and also it could be a good thing. Like I encourage them to suspect every defector. We can never know. Some guys might be spy, and some kind not even their spine. Sometimes that defector must. Sometimes people defect because their life were threatened because their base are already almost fallen, or they know they will be attacked in the next few weeks. So sometimes they defect. Sometimes these kind of defector might just have some brainwash, some level of brainwash or propaganda from the military, and we have like a few cases like people change their mind and they go back inside the country, not inside the military, but at least they go back inside the country. And sometimes it could become a security risk. So that's why maybe like sometimes we cannot like trust every defector like 100% sure. So but we have been in the revolution for like 2 or 3 years, and so people know us. People already know who they can believe and who they can work with. So yeah, there's the communication and collaboration with or the different forces with the defector where like it being improved a lot. But there will be suspicion always. Sometimes even in the last month, I had a meeting with the Burmese daughter in the America, and at the first meeting, they all close their camera because they don't know us. Like that kind of thing already happens. But it could be normal things in those kind of situations. People are working, risking their lives. So sometimes the suspicion might be good. Yeah.
Thank you. And now, less of a personal question, pretty straightforward one, a good way to end on. How are you making the MDSI sustainable? These organizations can come and they can go. It's very difficult to get sustainable revenue sources of funding. So how are you going about it, and how can people help?
Yes. Actually, when we started this MDSI, yes, we only have the very a little bit of support from our partner organization called MPI, Myanmar Policy Institute from India, like. So and then we have been operating with that limited amount of resource like money, and then we have a limited amount of manpower because when we cannot hire people, so we don't have funds, so people have to work from their extra time as volunteer. Like we are not taking any kind of compensation or any kind of money from the organization, and we are also putting our own money from our other jobs and things like that. So sometimes I feel frustrated because the process became a little bit slower. Sometimes we have a very insightful defector, but he has to work all day in a hard labor, and then he can fall asleep at night to write a report. So sometimes we have to wait a week or two for him to finish his part of the information writing. Sometimes we just want to like tell them like we will give you the whole month's salary, just write the reports and things like that. So in the future, we want to able to provide our, our resources, our informers and things like that. Sometimes we also like need some kind of funding for the watermelon. Sometimes we might have to buy them like banner phones and some kind of incentive and things like that, support and things like that. So yeah, the funding would be really helpful for us. So now we are trying to meet with the international organization, like present our works and like trying to raise a little bit of fund. But we are like very relatively new organization, but we don't have any luck so far. But I think if as long as people see what we were doing is like important and unique, I think like there will be some organization that will help us. Like I was hoping so. It's not because about our profit or like compensation. It's about we want to make the process more effective and more more quickly using the money and resources. Maybe I don't know, research assistant or advisors, or sometimes we might need about those kind of other expert opinion, expert help from the other organizations. So we are looking for all the kind of help funding now. Yeah.
Well, of course, good luck with that. And of course, interested listeners can check out your website and reports in the show notes just under this episode in your podcast app.
Oh, yes. And maybe I can leave a message about our MDSI. The last message is about, we want to talk. Every time I talk with the organization, although like political bodies, and we always ask that we want to be used, we want to be utilized in the whole revolution. So we are welcoming any kind of suggestion, like how to improve our reports. And sometimes we want a lot of requests from every organization, like what they want and what kind of reports they want us to focus, because we have a lot of like connection and knowledge about the insights of the military. But sometimes when we don't know what is the most important thing, we might not know what is the most important report to publish first. Sometimes when we think our knowledge, that kind of specific knowledge is not important, but it could be important for the civilian organization and resistance forces. So we are welcoming a lot of suggestion and a lot of requests. So yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, again, any listeners, if you're involved in any of this, please do get in contact with the MDSI. And yes, Dr. Kid, thank you for joining What's Happening in Myanmar. I really can't wait to read your upcoming publications on the Kapasa factories. And really kind of you to give us so much of your time.
Okay, thank you for inviting me over to your podcast so that we can raise our voices. Yeah, thank you.
And with Dr. Kid's exit, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for keeping up with what's happening in Myanmar. And thanks for coming to the 10-year birthday celebrations in Bangkok last week, if you were there. Remember, there's another event this Friday in Chiang Mai. Check your inbox if you're a Frontier member for all those details and to RSVP. And remember that we love your questions and your feedback about this podcast. So why don't you email us? whimyanmar@proton.me. We look forward to hearing from you. Until next week, farewell and take care.